Mr. Christopher Martin and Dr. Kawachi Clemens here. Can you tell us how you two met?
Well, the earliest is I was working on a documentary called Welcome to Durham, which was a documentary about the unfortunate epidemic of the Bloods and Crips in North Carolina, specifically Raleigh-Durham area. And part of that was being able to show some of the positive things that were happening in Raleigh-Durham. And of course, you think positive is pretty much synonymous with North Carolina Central University. So we just happened to be on the campus when the band was rehearsing, and he was band director.
Yeah, I was assistant director of the band, and
right, we had
percussion section.
Yeah, Accents Permission was able to play the film. And as a matter of fact, I actually have that on film because it was part of the film footage for the thing. But so that's when we unofficially, I mean.
Yeah, it was unofficial.
Yeah, but then later when I was invited to participate in a hip hop summit that took place at the school, university hosted, that's when I met him. Along with the chancellor and everybody else. So.
Cool, let me know that. I always wondered. The other question I have, I like your metaphor of hip hop as the prodigal son. Particularly, why is that so appropriate for you with the Chronicles and the Journal and the project that you have in mind?
Because metaphorically, in the 70s, because of the financial crisis that New York was going through, part of the ways that they wanted to take care of restoration, they felt they needed to get rid of some of the money that was being spent, or stop spending money on the arts and music and arts in the schools at the time, in the public schools, which created a big vacuum, with everything. And a lot of those decisions resulted in a lot of kids becoming disinterested in school, but still hungry to want to play music, express themselves through the music and the arts. Fast forward, hip hop was birthed. But it was considered, I guess, like a bastard or whatever. It wasn't like born in the schools, cultivated, nursed in the schools. So now here we are, 30 plus years later. Look what that child has become, a major success. So now, we're asking, can we return? Can we come back? Can we come back bringing gifts? Can we come back to help contribute to the problems that the school is dealing with now as far as low attendance and all of that, so to become a recruitment tool to come and bring and teach in a new, unorthodox way how to earn money, how to earn a living through what has become an incredible economic source today in the world globally.
Good. I think the merger here of someone who is, for all practical purposes, academic, right, is how do you see yourself working at this point? How is that, you told us how you met, how is that relationship fortified, and how, because particularly when you were talking about FAMU and the pharmacists and the pharmacy school, and I know how it is, getting people to accept hip-hop scholarship. How do you see your relationship working with someone that's not only an icon, but someone that really has a creative mind, in the sense that he was a great entertainer and still is, but how do you see the two working together as far as someone from the outside looking in, wondering, well, how do these two end up together?
Yeah, I think it's the collaboration and partnership has been great as far as I'm concerned, and it has benefited me immensely, particularly in the area of my research as a qualitative researcher and journaling and archiving this narrative, right, of hip hop as an extension of Black culture and Black musical traditions. There's always this thing in qualitative research about insider privilege, right. And even though I grew up in Miami and areas that were less than I didn't grow up in Coral Gables or South Beach when in terms of the $1 million homes, right? So had a very modest upbringing, as one might say. But there's still, in an area of doing my research, Play has helped me out with the insider privilege, because I had access, and I have access to many individuals that I think ordinarily most scholars don't have access to. You know what I mean? Right. Especially on what ended up being my dissertation project, that I think eventually will probably turn that into something a little larger. I have, tons of interviews from this project that we were working on called The Architects of Hip Hop, where, a lot of these stories are being told that eventually the world is going to hear those stories. So from that aspect, I think it's great. As a performer, not just I'm also a musician, right? Being a musical scholar. So we have definitely connections in terms of the music. I write and produce music as well as perform. So I think for he and I, it's, we blend well together. But I think having him on board, or I think whenever you're developing an academic program on hip-hop or relating to hip-hop, it helps to have someone like a Christopher Martin, one who's a pioneer, or one who is or at one point was actively involved in, the creation of this particular art form. He still is, right? Because he and Kid are still touring and they're still doing, tons of stuff.
I want to add something before we move on. It's like, the blessing for me out of this relationship is that I haven't been shy about admitting the mistake I made of not finishing school. I got kicked out of 5 high schools. The schools didn't, for no reason, whatever. I just didn't go, had no interest. I could use the excuse that nothing was of interest to me, but still, that's a decision. It was a bad decision that came with consequences. Dr. Clemens paid the price for what you're supposed to do in order to know what he knows. So for me, I missed a lot. There are times where he and I are talking and, I may incorrectly say something, or I'm asking him something about certain things that I would normally know if I went to school. So that's what's valuable to me in the relationship, because it helps me to fill in some voids that I missed not doing what I was supposed to do in the first place. So, I just wanted to make sure that, that's what I benefit.
I like the kind of, I really like the symbiotic relationship that the two of you have, where whatever he's lacking, you have, and vice versa, and then that commonality. One of the questions you may get tired of people asking, but I guess for this particular purpose, what is your opinion or your thought process on the state of hip hop as it is today? Are you in the mindset of hip hop versus rap, or do you look at it as talking just about hip hop in general? So let me be more specific. There are people that, I'm one that I talk about the differences. There's a difference of hip hop and rap. From my perspective, we live in a rap era now. And I don't get into it in the debate of has hip hop died or anything like that. But what is your thought on the state of hip hop as it is right now in 2014?
Well, I still look at hip hop as sort of the overarching umbrella of everything within the culture, and I look at rap. So how often when people make those kinds of comments, I say, well, are you talking about just rap? Is it like stylistically rap, or what most people commonly refer to as rap music? Because this whole notion of rap, and Dolomite, will say rapping and tapping is my game, right? And so that was long before Kid and Play were doing anything, and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, did super rapping. So from a traditional standpoint, I would say we live in an era of both. I think rap music, or today's rap, I think, is gone beyond, or is a vast difference, right? Or a cultural variance, maybe a more politically correct word to use, or phrase, from the early days of what rap music was. From a lyrical standpoint, from a standpoint of the music borrowing from, because hip hop didn't have a music. Right, its music was disco. Its music was, sampling of those blues records, sampling of those jazz records, sampling of rock music. Right, when you start thinking about it, right, it was taking whatever you had access to and conforming it and molding it to meet your needs. Right, which ironically is what Gardner talks about. Howard Gardner, who's a educator and psychologist at Harvard University in terms of intelligence. Right, this biopsychological potential to solve problems, fashion products.